lesson for me to learn from you. We know that you come from Pakistan. When we talk about your country, a Chinese person have a call. They call your the icon font for the icon font for Chinese person. The cooperation under the initiative of Belt and Road is also a good example for the two countries' friendship and economic cooperation. So can you give us some examples between the bilateral cooperations under the Belt and Road initiative?
Yeah. Well, CPEC, which is China-Pakistan Economic Cooperation, was one of the earlier ventures and early kind of initiative that was undertaken as a result of Pakistan and China's very strong spirit of cooperation. China and Pakistan have been long-standing friends, and they are strategic partners in the sense that by location they are closely tied to each other, and it gives the two nations an opportunity to seek for mutual development going forward. The first round, CPEC is of course a very ambitious venture, and it's been in making for a couple of decades, to put it simply, and its first round of development has really visibly been obvious to the public now. In the first round, there has been good concentration on developing energy projects. One of the major issues Pakistan has faced is extreme power shortages, and the shortages of power were quite crippling and resulted in almost deindustrialization of Pakistan. Also, the price of power, when the demand is so huge, has been not very affordable. So we had an issue of accessibility, lack of affordability, and lack of sustainable energy development. So in the first phase, there have been about 15 or so energy projects, and there has been capacity generation of about 11,100 megawatts, of which a lot of it has already been commercialized and has come online, and in the next few months we'll see other energy projects coming online. And today it has helped ease the energy shortage that Pakistan is facing. However, we are a fast-growing economy. We have a potential to be a fast-growing economy, and we are a population of 207 million, so demand for energy is huge. So Pakistan government, in addition to attracting foreign direct investment from China and offering very decent returns for that foreign direct investment to China, and cushioning the risk associated with it and providing the needed security for the Chinese projects, has to now think about long-term development of energy, which allows a decent change in the fuel mix of Pakistan's energy, because ultimately we need to have more cleaner fuel, and we need to rely on cheaper sources of fuel, because we have a very delicate balance of payment situation as of now, and we can ill afford to import very substantive fuel. Of course, we have to meet our needs, but oil price volatility makes it very difficult for Pakistan to continue relying on thermal sources. So we are in the process of reflection of how to change the fuel mix. At the same time, there has been a discussion for some years to really look at what are the other areas of cooperation. So one of the most fascinating parts of CPEC is the development of a very structured economic corridor which has taken place in phases. So from Kashgar up there to down to Gwadar port, there has been in phases development of this corridor, which has brought in prosperity, because once you have roads, you have people are able to market things, people are able to move cheaply. The second is that there is a very ambitious railway project which of course is awaiting its own feasibility and also reflection on whether how much of it can be afforded by Pakistan in terms of the cost of borrowing and the terms of borrowing. And then along with this infrastructure development, Pakistan needs to develop its agriculture sector and industrial sector, because our macroeconomic situation is quite vulnerable. We have borrowed more, we have imported a lot. Of course, it has resulted in lifting economic growth of Pakistan. In 2018, we were able to reach 5.8% of GDP. But we have to now start thinking about how we can keep our macroeconomic imbalances contained, which means the fiscal deficit and the balance of payment issues. And the government is reflecting on what measures it needs to take. So having agriculture productivity enhancement, having industrial expansion, and along with industrial expansion, its diversification and producing enough to meet the domestic demand, but at the same time to be able to export, to let our balance of payment be sustainable in due course is very critical. So China is very much a partner in development in this overall project going forward. We have come a long way. China is also focused on development of Gwadar port, because Gwadar port then allows very cost-effective route to the western China. So relying on this route, you're able to reduce the shipping time and you're able to reduce the cost of movement of goods in an effective manner. So we continue to look at what is optimal for Pakistan and what is beneficial for China. And China, of course, has been our partner in development. So there are lots of debates on what is what is conducive for Pakistan, but at the same time, what is win-win for China too.
It's indeed a win-win cooperation initiative for two countries. You are so professional with this initiative that I thought you are very familiar with China, not only the economic area but also the culture and the policies. So I'm wondering, how long have you been here in China, and how many times have you been to the province of China, and such as the cities, the province, the sceneries, and the stories about you and China?
Well, I have been very fortunate. My interface and relationship with China goes a long way. I'm actually a multilateral development person. So I have been 15 years with the Asian Development Bank and 13 years with the World Bank, and then with United Nations about 5 years. And China has always been a member of, China is a member of Asian Development Bank, and I used to work on China for some years on the financial sector transformation. I have personally in Beijing. I used to commute from Manila to Beijing I used to work on financial sector, trade, investment and governance matters of China for quite a number of years. So we helped China develop the central banking legislation. We helped design the pension sector reforms. So ADB, Asian Development Bank, and my colleagues at ADB, myself, we have worked a lot in trying to strengthen the legal regulatory framework of the securities market, insurance market. This is a long time back. And then in the United Nations, I was heading the Asia Pacific Economic Affairs Office of the United Nations. It's located in Thailand, so it's called ESCAP, which has 63 members. It's one of the largest commissions of United Nations, and first I was in New York, so I used to work with China in New York, Chinese embassy and Chinese colleagues there, but then I was working with ESCAP, and China is a very important, one of the important members, 63 members of this Regional Commission of United Nations. As I said, it's the oldest and the largest commission. I have just stepped down from the Undersecretary position. So I have worked on China in different forms and capacities, and when I was Undersecretary of the United Nations, I have had the honor of being the first United Nations Undersecretary and United Nations Office to have signed an MOU with our Foreign Minister, now also the State Councillor, Mr. Wong. So I came to Beijing and we signed a memorandum of understanding on Belt and Road Initiative. So we promoted an understanding of Belt and Road Initiative across the membership of 63 countries. And we've had a lot of, we undertook an analytical piece of work when I was in Bangkok, but also we have had lots of conferences and discussions about the merits and the complexity of the Belt and Road Initiative, who likes it, who doesn't like it. So we have had very interesting, I've had very interesting opportunities. I have been to Beijing several times, of course, but I've also had the privilege of visiting some of the other provinces, depending on what the subject matter of the work that because in my career, it's very multi-sectoral. So you could be working on energy transition, you could be working on aging of the population, you could be working on transport development. So then you are moving from one province to another too. So I've been very fortunate, and I think I always look forward to my partnership and friendship with a lot of colleagues from China.
Yeah, so have you ever been to